Hey everybody, it's Jason Blaha here, and it's time for another Breakfast with Blaha, and today I'm having steamed vegetables and grilled chicken breast. Today I'm going to make a video that kind of needs to be remade every few months, and there's a good reason for that. And it's because I get a lot of people who, either as criticism or as legitimate questions, go, hey Jason, a few years ago, and meaning that a few years ago is turning up into like 6 years at this point, going on 7 years for some of it. They're like, you said things in your videos and it conflicts heavily with what you're saying now. Which ones do I follow? Why did you flip flop? Things like that. And I think what people need to keep in mind, the nature of my content today is dramatically different. And I had a span of years, or from around 2015 up through about 2017, partially into 2018, to where the quality of my content dropped. I did tons and tons of drama videos. The quality of my information, training information, was much lower than it was in the previous years. But keep in mind, where was I at before? When I started the channel, I was very much in the mindset of looking at what the best powerlifting coaches out there were saying and strength coaches were saying. Right, I was discussing a bunch of conjugate West Side methods, looking at most of the evidence. I was competing in powerlifting, right, and judging powerlifting meets. So I was going to meets and judging and things and talking to a lot of coaches and lifters that I didn't even compete in. I was in a different mindset. Keep in mind, I went through a divorce. Okay? And I don't want to make my private life too public here, but I went through a divorce. And it's actually the reason I left the UK. So there's a lot of myths as to different reasons. That's actually 100% of the reason. I didn't flee the UK, I divorced. I could have stayed technically in a lot of ways had I not got divorced. But I was going through a divorce. I got involved with someone over here into a very toxic relationship. And again, that's not throwing blame at that person. Not throwing blame, because I chose to be with them. I made a choice. A bad choice. I was drinking heavily. So I had a span of about 3 years to where the quality of my content dipped. Quality of my information dipped. My training wasn't even as good. I was weaker than when I was in the UK. Right? I was weaker through that whole period of time. I had a lot of stress in my personal life. It impacted the quality of my information. And at that point, I was just kind of going and looking at starting strength and stuff. And yeah, I like all this minimalist stuff. That's probably about all I could handle in my head at that time. Okay, so, and you're seeing information from that time period. You're seeing information from that time period. It is going to be much lower quality than what I've been doing the last few years again. Because my world has changed. Because we don't make these things in a vacuum, right? We're not making content in a vacuum. No content creator does. Just because you don't see what's going on always in their life, what's going on in their life is affecting what they're doing in front of the camera. Mine did. And my life was a dumpster fire. It really was. At that point, on so many levels. So as I pulled myself back out of that situation, got out of that relationship, my personal life now is happy. It's stable. It stays completely off the internet. No one has any idea what I do other than what they see on the camera, and I love that. Again, lesson learned. Lesson learned. I'm completely sober. Right? There were videos where I made that I had been drinking before I got in front of the camera. It happened quite a few times. I haven't had a drink in years. Zero, no alcohol at all. And I plan on keeping it that way. I don't drink. You know what? Because it affects my decision making in a bad way. It affects the quality of my content, my health, my recovery. I went back to digging deep into all the literature again, looking at what the best coaches are doing, and I went from just coaching a couple of clients as a part-time gig to coaching full-time. And I've been doing that over 2 years now. Right? We've been doing that over 2 years. And I think we're going to end up doing an interview eventually with Emma. She wanted to do that, my client Emma, to discuss just all of her history and me coaching her, and she'll tell you the same thing. Yeah, her and her husband, they got with me on a Skype over 2 years ago to apply for coaching. So now I've been coaching full time. The coaching, things have switched. It used to be YouTube was my big income, a little bit of side coaching. Now coaching is the big income, and time sync and YouTube's the little smaller thing we do. Okay, I learn continually. The more I coach as a 7-day-a-week thing, the more that I learn, the better I get at understanding different nuances, because every client is a Rubik's Cube. I collect new data info. I can run experiments between different clients to test variables. Okay? It gives me an enormous pool of information to learn from, in addition to keeping up with what the best coaches are doing, staying on top of all the scientific literature. That includes sports nutrition, nutritional science, not just the exercise science, and strength and conditioning. So the quality of my content is going to be dramatically better. You know, and what also needs to be said, people will say, well, you know, but didn't you say this here? Which one should I listen to? Well, it's very obvious which one you should listen to. The person that I am now is in a better psychological state. Well, just to compare two people, let's say you take whatever and look at what I was lifting, what my training looked like during those years through that period, if that's where you're trying to get info from. My squats were weaker than in the UK. I'd hit over 500-pound squat back in the UK. The best I had hit back during any of that time period was a 485. Okay, so who would you rather listen to if you've got to compare between two people? So let's compare me versus me. A person with a lot of bad stuff going on in their life, who's been drinking heavily, who only squats in the high 400s, coaches 1, 2, maybe 3 clients at a time as a very small part-time thing, who had a lot of knowledge base in the past, their life's a mess, versus someone who is in a good headspace. They coach 25 plus clients full-time for years, who has hit 600 plus pound squats on camera for you. If you were going to compare those two people for information, which one would you pick? Like, which one is more likely to be putting out better information? The one who's in a better headspace, who is a full-time coach, who's a lot stronger. They're more likely to have good information. So compare me with me. All right? Of course you should listen to the newer stuff. And I would say if you're comparing even during this time period, if I make a video a year ago, you go back and you look at a 2020 video. Say, well, that's pretty good, but Blaha is saying something slightly different now, right? Because I learned. We update. You know, and that's what you got to watch. You really need to watch for the people who are putting out information who never change their stance. They just say the same thing. They're not learning. They're not evolving. Because what do the best coaches do? Go look at someone like Louis Simmons. That's a man who flip-flops more than anyone else in the world, yet he's arguably the best strength coach ever in the world, at least in the modern era. Why? Because he's continually learning and evolving and implementing new things to compare them. Okay? And anyone who wants to be a good coach, anyone who wants to be a good educator, we have to evolve all the time. Our information should always be improving. It should never be static. should be getting better all the time. And that applies to me too. All right, guys, but that's really all I have to say on that today. I hope it's been informative, and I will talk to you guys next time.